All right, welcome to the show, everybody. We got a fun one for you today. So Lindsey Graham absolutely flipped out on Meet the Press and started scolding the host, all in defense of Trump, where he has to go over the top and dodge obvious points. It is, this is what the entire party is doing now, right? With Trump as the head of the party and the inevitable nominee. So we'll talk about that. We also have Bill Maher had Robert De Niro on, and Robert De Niro went ham, son. Just absolutely pulverized Trump in a way I'm not sure I've seen anybody talk about him as aggressive as the language is that you've heard from, whatever, MSNBC or whatever. He raised the stakes, man, more and more and more. All right, so we'll talk about that. Then later on, hilarious story about how all of the Trump-loving conspiracy theorists sort of abandoned him and we're throwing him under a bus here. I'll give you the issue that led to that. But also, let's be serious. They're going to be back in 2.5 minutes anyway, right? It doesn't matter if they temporarily break up with Trump because they always find their way back to being total sycophants and defending him in absurd fashions. And then later on in the show, Sean Hannity and Ted Cruz have an idiot contest. And I guess we're going to find out who wins. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Everybody, please subscribe to the channel. I deeply appreciate it. So let's kick it off with Lindsey Graham on Meet the Press. Man, he does Olympic-level mental gymnastics trying to defend his overlord. Let's watch.
One thing that happened this weekend at Mar-a-Lago on Friday, Donald Trump met with Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban.
Yeah.
Just for our viewers to remind them, Orban believes that liberal democracy doesn't work. He's packed Hungary's courts with loyalists. He seized control of media outlets. He's friends with Putin. He's friends with Xi. This is what Trump said about Orban on Friday.
There's nobody that's better, smarter, or a better leader than Viktor Orban. He's fantastic. As you know, the Prime Minister of Hungary, and does a great job. He's a non-controversial figure because he said this is the way it's going to be, and that's the end of it, right? He's the boss.
Do you think Viktor Orban's leadership is something that Trump aspires to in a second term?
I think the best way to judge President Trump's second term is by what he did in his first term. Russia didn't invade on President Trump's watch. Hamas didn't try to destroy Israel on his watch. The Taliban weren't in charge on his watch. So here's what I would say. If you're worried about the world being on fire, you're right. If you think Joe Biden's policies are lack of deterrence and he's weakened the eyes of our enemies, you're right. So if you want to get the world back in order, you better vote for Trump.
That wasn't even close to answering that question. Hey, this guy is a massive authoritarian. He's done a bunch of horrible things. Do you think Trump aspires to be like that in the second term? And just told, Neo from the Matrix type stuff there, just dodging as much as humanly possible. Answer the question. Answer the question. Does he want to be an authoritarian dictator in his second term? Yes or no? Now, Lindsey Graham knows the answer is yes, Trump wants to be an authoritarian dictator, but he can't say that, right? So what does he do? It's, Biden's bad. Jiu-jitsu, Biden's bad. Wasn't the question. That wasn't the question.
Former President Trump has talked about being a dictator on day one. He said it's nice to have a strong man running our country. He's talked about retribution in a second term, Senator.
You know what he said? Retribution would be success. Who knocked Trump off the ballot in Colorado?
That is because judges were trying to uphold the Constitution and the law. And by the way, it got slapped down by the overwhelmingly conservative Supreme Court, right? But this is what they do. They conflate people trying to hold Trump accountable, people trying to apply justice with somehow that's retribution against Trump. To the extent it's retribution against Trump, it is upholding the law. So doing what should be done. But no, he flips it and acts like, well, that's retribution. And what Trump wants to do, that's not retribution. Oh, please. What Trump wants to do is, with or without the law, go after his political opponents. This isn't like hard to figure out. It's all out there in the open.
There's a liberal jihad against everything Trump. I'm not worried about Trump destroying democracy. I'm worried about Joe Biden destroying the world.
Those were Republicans, and the Supreme Court has now put him back on the ballot.
But the point you're trying to ask me, is Trump bad for this country?
No.
I would say that Joe Biden's policies are bad for America and have got the world on fire.
Senator, just be very clear, though. He is aligning himself with Viktor Orban,
who's a member of NATO, who just voted to let sweeten it.
Who has
sweeten it
reluctantly, though, but he has
Orban's not on the ballot. Let's have a debate.
He has rolled back democratic
Orban is not on the ballot. You got to vote between Trump and Biden. Biden has screwed the world up every way you can. Broken borders, the world's on fire. If he's really is back, if he's with it, if he's energetic, get in a room with Donald Trump and debate. Take questions from people like yourself rather than reading a teleprompter. If there's ever an election in the history of America that deserved debate between the two candidates, it's this election. Trump just told me, the campaign just told me, anytime, anywhere, let's debate.
All right, but very quickly, just one more point before we move on to my very last question. Okay. Trump has said to Putin that he would welcome him invading a NATO country, Senator, if they didn't pay their bills. Should people not hear that rhetoric and feel as though he is potentially aligning himself with the type of leadership that Orban has shown? That
was in reference to NATO paying their fair share. There are 19 nations that don't pay the 2% they're supposed to. When Trump was president, he had a
let me finish.
No, that's not. You shouldn't say that. The point is, Russia didn't invade Ukraine when Trump was president. The world, the Arabs recognized Israel through the Abraham Accords when Trump was president. If you want to look.
Oh, my God. They moved the embassy to Jerusalem and they did the Abraham Accords, which was a massive middle finger to Palestinians. And that helped lead to October 7th. But somehow he's spinning it and giving Trump credit for his foreign policy.
Who's the most stable person for the world? Biden versus Trump. Trump wins in a landslide.
Notice he never answered the original question. The original question was, does Trump want to model himself after somebody like Viktor Orban? Does he look at that as a roadmap and as a model for the future? Now, to the extent Lindsey came even close to answering it, he was like, I wouldn't look at Orban as much as I'd look at Trump's first term. Well, then the answer is the same in both instances. Whether you want to model yourself after Orban or he wants to model himself after Trump, his first term, the answer is the same. We know he tried to overturn the election in 2020. We know he did that. We know he's probably going to try some other stuff, which is either borderline illegal or outright illegal if he doesn't win this election. Look, I would actually respect it if Lindsey was asked, is Trump an authoritarian? And he was just like, yeah, he is, but I still support him. Because then at least we know. Then at least we have like, okay, they support authoritarianism. They just do. That is, they're okay with that. They don't care about democracy. They'll throw it out the window. They'll embrace authoritarian dictatorships if they get all the other policies they want, like the tax cuts for the rich and the deregulation and the American strength, not weakness, where we, bully countries all around the world and shove our middle finger up. And if he were to just come out and say that, okay, I'd still be doing this segment, but I'd be doing it saying, well, he's honest. He's wrong, but he's honest. But instead, he's both dishonest and wrong here because he's dodging the obvious reality. And by the way, Lindsey Graham is an even bigger hawk than Donald Trump. And you could tell he got uncomfortable when she brought up what Trump said to Putin, like, do whatever you want if they don't pay their bills. You could tell he was like, even he's like, I don't like that one. But he can't help but snap back into Trump defense mode. Why? Because Lindsey Graham has been on the receiving end of vicious Trump attacks in the past, and that keeps his ass in line. It keeps him in line. And so in a situation like this, he's defending him come hell or high water, even though this was the easiest answer in the world. Yes, Trump wants to model himself after somebody like Orban. Yes, Trump wants to be an authoritarian dictator. Trump said on day one, I'll be a dictator. And he still has to dodge and act like that's not true. And somehow Joe Biden is the bigger threat on issues pertaining to authoritarianism. I mean, who are we kidding here? Who are we kidding? But look, it's harder and harder for these guys to defend Trump, but they're not going to stop trying. But these videos are going to age like milk. Age like milk. Watch. You come back and watch some of these videos in 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is. People will be like, holy fuck. This is the stuff they were saying? Homie was broadcasting that he wants to be an authoritarian. They were broadcasting that they're going to do Project 2025 and go full Christian nationalist. And this is the way the party was defending him? God, embarrassing. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.